Hi AGDQ. My name's Cap, and I'm a Pikmin 2 speedrunner, and this will be my submission for AGDQ 2020 for the Pikmin speedrun, Pikmin 2 Payoff Debt. Let's get the speedrun underway, shall we? Pikmin 2 is a really great speedrun. I really like it because in Pikmin 2, the main story of this game is that you are Olimar and your co-worker Louie are part of this intergalactic space company that went into debt, and it turns out that the Pikmin planet, which it turns out is also our planet, is full of treasure, which comes in the form of every household object. So the goal of this game is to collect all of the treasures in order to pay off the debt. So the game starts with us crash landing on this planet, which is no fun, and the game wants us to do this really long tutorial to teach us how to use Pikmin. However, we are not only well versed in the game, but we are also speedrunners, so we are going to skip that. And how do we do that? Well, we take, a couple Pikmin, just a couple Pikmin, and instead of killing the Bulborb, we go this way, and we throw them out of bounds, so that's pretty wild. And then we drag them into the abyss, killing them, which makes the game freak out, because if you kill all your Pikmin, the day automatically ends. So that's what we've done here. This is called Day 1 Extinction. It is one of the first sequence breaks we use in the game. And this allows us to skip the tutorial, just because you're not supposed to be able to end the day at this time. And so we do that, and that's the first way that we save a good chunk of time. However, of course, we have to go back and grow all the Pikmin, because we do in fact need Pikmin to beat this game. Pikminless runs don't exist yet. So the next goal is, since we low-key murked all of our Pikmin, we need to start growing them back. So as you can imagine, the growth starts a little small, but then it will get bigger and bigger as time goes on. So this is another. There are very few cutscenes in Pikmin 2 that are unskippable. This is just one of them, where it tells us how cool growing Pikmin is. So obviously, as we collect bug bodies and nutrition pellets, we grow more Pikmin, and it allows us to build up our army. We also need to get that Bulborb and collect that for Pikmin, but we've figured out that it's faster to actually lure the Bulborb closer to the onion, because it walks faster than the leaf Pikmin carry it. So what I'm about to attempt at, is actually a frame-perfect trick. So there is a cutscene when Louie, who I've not actually been playing as yet, approaches the onion. And if I pause on the exact same frame that the cutscene starts, I skip it. I have 2 attempts, so let's see if I get it. See, so I was a little bit early there. But I sort of go early on the first one because I have 2 attempts. And if I go, going early is fine, but if I go late, then I lose even more, but then I lose a lot of time. So the goal on the first one is to go early, because I can always try again. After day 3, we will basically start the main growth sequence and start entering caves and collecting treasure, which is always exciting. So the first 3 days are just basically these growth sequences, just because it's necessary because of the Day 1 Extinction strats, because instead of growing our Pikmin, we lose them in order to advance the day. Alright, let's see if I can press start on the same frame as this cutscene. Yes, I did it. So that fade in before the pause means that I was able to get that frame perfect trick. So I've been working pretty hard in order to get these frame perfect tricks down, and so thankfully in this game that's the only frame perfect trick, and it saves. Oh, whoops! I can add 2 seconds to that. I'm so used to splitting there that I accidentally split on my no split thing. Fine. So now that we've done some frame perfect tricks and we've grown some Pikmin, we can start actually by starting some multitasks to get down, to get to other areas. Because before we didn't have enough Pikmin to really advance. So now that we've done that and performed a whole bunch of sequence breaks and skips, we can start actually playing the game. So the first paper bag that we need to down in order to leave this area requires 15 Pikmin. I have 13, so I have to wait for these two sprouts to come up so I can advance. When I pluck, I'm also using Seasick, which moves my Pikmin in my squad ahead of me as I pluck. So I did it there too, which brings them closer to my body, which allows me to throw basically faster, right? So there's in Pikmin 2, you can move your army with the Seasick, and the Seasick will become very important as it sort of determines how fast you can access your squad. So now that I've put in motion the ability to grow all these Pikmin, I now have to get Nectar. Nectar is one of the most important quantities in Pikmin. Currently, as you see, my Pikmin all have leaves on their heads, which means they actually do things very, very slow. And Nectar is what allows us to flower our Pikmin. If we don't flower our Pikmin, then things go really slow. But then once we get all these Pikmin and then proceed to flower them, that will allow us to basically carry objects, they run faster, they do everything faster. So you can imagine in a speedrun, having the vast majority of your Pikmin nectared is pretty important. So we're going to basically try to nectar up our entire squad here. I have a whole bunch of nectar, so that isn't really a challenge. So yeah, so they all get nectar, they all get flowered, and they're moving much faster now. They actually run a little bit faster than me, so you can see that they're now catching up to me, so I don't have to wait for them anymore. So this is called Seasick Throwing. I'm actually moving the Seasick back and forth rapidly while mashing A really fast, and that allows me to throw much faster than you can casually. So, because I want even more Pikmin on my squad, I'm sending those to, I'm sending those Pikmin back there to get the sprouts. Then I take a captain. I accidentally switched to Louis for no purpose per se, but we switch to the other captains, come back, pluck these sprouts, but we do that, of course, while the Pikmin are knocking down that gate. And that gate is what's blocking us from our first cave, where we collect most of the treasures. There are above-ground treasures, but most of the treasures we collect are going to be found in caves. So, I mean, throughout all of this, I'm, like, optimizing my Pikmin movement with the Seasick, which you can hear, and then I'm also basically, with the fine Pikmin movement to make sure everyone comes with us. We do have to take some leaves in, but getting the Pikmin numbers up to 52 is a greater boon. The more Pikmin you have, the more at ease you are. One more unskippable saying, do you know how to move your Pikmin? The answer is, of course, we do. And you can see in the cutscene that ahead we have a cave. When you enter a cave, you bring all the Pikmin in your party underground with you. And then you basically start playing these sub-levels, which essentially are, just very small confined areas of gameplay. So those are very exciting. So in general, of course, in order to max, so this is where we started having to work efficiently. So I'm going to try to just, I was able to one-shot the Bulborbs. And then you can imagine that it's actually fastest to, it's fastest to go for the farther one first, because a sub-level, in terms of theory of sub-levels in Pikmin 2, you want the thing that is done the longest to be done the fastest. So, a lot of these, the first couple layouts are very, very, very straightforward, but in the later caves, these become procedurally generated. And so I'm actually going to have to route on the fly. In a way, I think this is what makes Pikmin 2 like a very different speed game than a lot of other speed games, because so much of Pikmin 2 is me routing on the fly. I'm actually creating a very fast route dynamically throughout the entire run. These ones are a little bit more structured. So currently, the only Pikmin that you've seen right now are red Pikmin, but which is fine. But now we are actually going to encounter a treasure that's very heavy, so heavy that red Pikmin cannot begin to carry it. So, what do we do? Well, we're gonna need a new type of Pikmin. So here you see we approach what are called purple candy pop buds, violet candy pop buds, and if you throw Pikmin into them, you throw a Pikmin of one color in, and pop out come a different color. How curious! So here's where we encounter purple Pikmin. Purple Pikmin are insanely important to the speedrun, also just to casual play in general, because they are very powerful Pikmin. And so they allow, basically, I'm going to one-shot some of these Bulborbs as I pass, so they don't eat purple Pikmin. So purple Pikmin are very slow, so purple leaves, I try to have as few purple leaves as possible throughout the speedrun, because as you can see, they just run very slowly. But they also carry oh jeez. I need one purple here to carry a monster. Just so I can, because once you carry a monster, a cutscene plays. In any case, I go and pluck this guy. I didn't pluck all of them because it's faster to just keep moving back to get that globe moving as fast as possible. And now we just wait for the body and for the globe to come in, which should happen right now. So, bugs, you can imagine, are not worth anywhere near the value of treasures, but if you get bugs over, the course of a long time, you can imagine that it stacks up. So, right now we only have 4 Pokos, or 2 Pokos and bug bodies. But you can imagine that over the course of the run, we get many, many, many bugs. So we end up getting around 200 Pokos of bug bodies. So 2% of the entire debt we actually get from bugs. Which doesn't, I guess, sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you take into account that, that's basically 200 Pokos we don't have to get in treasure, which saves a lot of time. I keep doing that. I keep splitting. Need to get better at that. We can just add a couple seconds at the end of this timing. My estimate is going to probably be 150, which is much, much, much higher than any time that I would ever get in a marathon, so I'm not worried about that. In any case, we just cleared our first cave, and so with that, we've also cleared our first. We will return to Valley of Repose. This is the intro area is Valley of Repose. We will return there in a little bit, but now we get to actually go through Awakening Wood, where we get the vast majority of our Pokos. The plurality of the Pokos that we get come from Awakening Wood. So here is the new area, and now we have an army of reds and purples, and we're going to take that army and really sort of tear through this, getting several new Pikmin types along the way. So the first order of business is there is a wall that takes forever to get down, and frankly, we need more Pikmin. So we're going to start multitasking once again. So we just need to get those pellets and those bugs while this cutscene plays, because I have 2 types of Pikmin out at the same time. The game thinks that's special. And we just really want to get these guys on the wall. Just really get them started on that. Meanwhile, I can start, multitasking. Right there, by the way, I've sort of glossed over this, but the cursor in front of me is where Pikmin will generally be thrown if I'm not moving. But if I'm moving, momentum is conserved. So there's like the idea of the long throw, and that's what I was doing there with the Pikmin. So I can stand in one place, but also throw Pikmin farther than the game, I guess, believes you can throw Pikmin according to the cursor, because we're adding momentum to that. It's as simple as just running and throwing, but it's going to be very important, because it'll allow us to, for example, throw Pikmin over this gate. I'm not going to do that yet, but there's a buried enemy there, and it's actually faster if we kill that enemy while this gate's coming down, right? Because, Pikmin, and in real life, I guess, doing 2 things at the same time is faster than doing one thing sequentially. So we're going to, instead of killing that enemy after the wall comes down. We're going to actually just try to kill that enemy right now. So I'm long throwing these Pikmin over and hoping that they just deal with that enemy. 1 or 2 Pikmin may perish during the sequence. 1 Pikmin just perished during the sequence. It's fine. The time save from not having to fight that enemy with, while I'm nectaring everybody. Oh, by the way, yes, I am nectaring everybody. Come on, you couldn't... A couple leaves are fine, but I can't have just a trillion leaves in my Pikmin party. As I've already expressed, managing the few leaves you do have is really important. And we've already entered the next cave. So this cave is full of beasts. This one has 5 sublevels. The first sublevel is pretty straightforward. There's just a whole bunch of shear grubs that I'm going to try to collect, more bug money. Oh, look, there's a couple. Oh, good. Really nice. All right. I'm just going to try to get all of these while max loading the Stone of Glory, as it is called. A nice little trick in Pikmin 2 is to see how many treasure names you can memorize. The treasures are always given pretty cute names. Cute, clever. This one is the Stone of Glory. You may recognize it. It is the D-pad. Whatever would we do without you, D-pad? And of course, you can imagine that it's important to get to the exit as you do this. So now we have a D-pad. We also got a decent amount of bug money. No complaints over here. This actually is... oops. So I stick 1 captain by the exit there, because we'll need to get there. And then the other captain will throw more Pikmin to create even more purples. Purples are very important. So now we got 10 earlier. We are now up to 20, which is almost the amount we need. Later we actually will get 5 more, but you'll see that 20 purples is sufficient to cause a decent amount of damage to the majority of the enemies that we fight. So you haven't seen... in a little bit you will see the power of purple Pikmin. Not in this sublevel, because this sublevel has a whole bunch of fire, which red Pikmin are immune to. And so what I do here is, instead of destroying all the fire, because I have all this red Pikmin, I can just sort of ignore it. You actually also saw me do some sort of advanced technique where I quickly menued to throwing a purple. I can menu and choose which Pikmin I throw. And when I did that, they dismissed, a lot more cleanly, allowing me to quickly whistle just reds. So separating the Pikmin out and whistling is a pretty important tactic in order to just make sure you're quickly selecting just Pikmin that you want and multitask these treasures together really quickly. So far, a lot of these sublevels, because these of course are the first sublevels in the game, the challenges in terms of routing are pretty straightforward, right? You get the far treasure first, you get the close treasure second. They come in at around the same time. That is what's showing you that the routing is good. Full of Beast 4 is the first sublevel that, dare I say, is slightly more complicated. The main thing I'm looking for here is there's a playing card that I need to get, but more importantly, there is metites. There are actually nectar-creating enemies in an empty alcove, and I have to basically sleuth out which alcove it's in. So here's why purples are really good. I basically made insanely short work of... so there's the playing card. And here are the metites, which then give me a whole bunch of nectar, which is important because I need to nectar all these purples. I am unfortunately gonna... Normally I wanted to collect that bullboard, but because of this layout, I basically did all that on the fly though. I discovered where the card was, where the bullboard was, and I made all those decisions on the fly. Which is, of course, the power of Pikmin 2. Normally, I want to collect that bullboard because it's 7 Pokos, but it's actually worth, in this case, to skip it to save some time. Of of course, since the goal of this game is to collect a certain amount of money as quickly as possible, it's an interesting speedrun because, of course, you have a dance. Right? Like, you want to just go fast, but you can't go too fast if you don't have any money. Right? Because it's the amount of time that it takes to actually get all of this money. This is the first boss, by the way. I'm actually attacking the boss in a frame window, and I did not get the quick kill. So sometimes that I can get the enemy by just destroying it instantly. This is just a one cycle. This enemy will steamroll through all of your Pikmin, but I know how to approach it safely. So, short work of that boss fight. And this gives us our first important treasure. Well, I guess our second important treasure. The globe in the first area is what unlocks this area. So, you could argue that this is the second most important treasure. But I collect this boss bug body, which is pretty valuable. And we get the prototype detector, which actually gives us the treasure gauge, which is pretty important. So what the treasure gauge does is it adds a gauge. You'll be able to see it in the next area. Or maybe not in the next area, in the next cave. But it basically adds it, or maybe we'll see it above ground. But you basically, there's now a detector that tells me when I'm close to treasure, which is really, really, really valuable because it allows me to route, where all the treasures are. So yeah, so now you see above to my lower right, you actually see a gauge now. And this gauge will tell me when I'm near treasure. For example, there is a treasure on this stump right here that I will get later. Not right now, but I will get it later when the routing makes it prudent. And of course the gauge goes up. So using the gauge is actually pretty important in figuring out what sublevels to do. And speaking of which, because we got the 20 purples, we were able to take down that bag, and we are already off into our next cave, White Flower Garden. So, where in White Flower Garden, just like how purple flowers created purple Pikmin, you can imagine that in White Flower Garden, we will use this to create white Pikmin, which are, I would argue, the most important Pikmin type in the Pikmin 2 speedrun. Oh, so they killed a red. In Pikmin 2, I will say the Pikmin deaths are obviously not preferred. You want a certain amount of Pikmin, but there is a light tolerance to certain types. So like reds and later blues are generally going to be considered fodder types of Pikmin, where you need them, of course, because you need a critical mass of Pikmin in order to carry treasures and fight enemies, but purples and whites are very, very, very hard to come by. Because you can only grow purples and whites underground with flowers, whereas, of course, you can grow red Pikmin and other Pikmin above ground. So, in that sense, you can imagine, like, that if one red Pikmin dies, it's not the end of the world. But it's a much bigger deal if a purple dies or a white dies. Alright. So we're actually going to collect this bug body by working really fast. So of course we still apply the rhetoric of we want to get the things that take the longest done the fastest. So we go to the far treasure first. And then we just get this guy just because I want that nice 4 Pokos. Because if you work fast, you can also collect bugs. See, so now everything's coming together still. So I lost no time by fighting that enemy. Because of course the sublevels only takes as long as the shortest takes as long as the rate limiting step. And the rate limiting step was getting the bottle cap. So as long as the bottle cap comes in last, that means that I executed this very well. Also, collecting that bug offset me not getting the Bulbor Mon Holobeast 4, which is really nice. Alright, well, here is the White Flower level. It is in this one where we collect where we get 15 whites, which is a huge boon. So, White Pikmin, I didn't really talk about them earlier. White Pikmin have several abilities. Just like how red Pikmin are immune to fire, white Pikmin are immune to poison, but that actually isn't what's most impressive about them. The most important thing about white Pikmin are sort of twofold. A, they can actually dig up treasures underground. Don't ask me why, but they can. That's what they're doing right now. A treasure is under the ground, and they're digging it up for me to collect. How nice of them. But also, the real secret, the dark secret, is they carry treasures so fast. You can imagine in a game based on carrying treasures as fast as possible would be pretty important, you would think. And you would be right. These white Pikmin carry treasures so fast. So what I'm doing right here is I'm going to nectar up the vast majority of them. And get rid of purples, which carry things slowly, because purples are slow. And replace them with mostly whites. So, we didn't really go into this earlier, but we actually understand rigorously mathematically how carrying works in this game. And I know that white Pikmin, for example, white flowers carry twice as fast as red flowers. And carry, it's not a clean number, but, like 2.5 times as fast as purples. So, basically, getting whites on a treasure is so important because that actually will greatly speed up the carry time. Because they basically have twice the amount of carry speed as other Pikmin. So before, in the previous caves, we were collecting everything because everything was valuable. In this cave, there's actually a treasure, that toadstool over there, that we aren't going to collect. And we aren't going to collect that because it's only 30 Pokos, and it actually isn't worth the time that it would take to collect. Because the goal this is not an all treasures speedrun. All treasures speedrun is the 100% equivalent of the Pikmin 2 speedruns, and is very fun. And one day I will submit that to GDQ as well, but that's definitely that's a much more intense speedrun. So we actually intentionally skipped that treasure. And that's also what I like about Payoff Debt, is it's a routing game, is we're not forced to pick everything. In the later caves, we'll be, skipping treasures and making judgment calls on what to get and what not to get based on the layouts. Because ultimately it's a routing thing. Matites came out of an egg. Which is unfortunate because that spooked all of my people. Fine, I just wanted to get the eggs because I wanted to nectar the other white. So now I carried a white and I tried to bring it to the front so that I got most of the whites on the glove, and I did succeed in a small way, but I would have preferred maybe even a couple more whites on there. But everyone is, this is of course the reality where in the beginning, there was still a couple leaves. Now everyone is flowered. We have whites, we have purples, we have reds. Suddenly we have a colorful Pikmin army, and we can actually start. I'm about to do one of the most important sequence breaks in the game, which is called early blues. So in Pikmin 2, traditionally, you would get these colors sort of in the order that I've done now, and then you would have to go to a different area, get yellows, come back, and get blues. That's no good. We don't like that at all. So we found a really cool sequence break involving certain exploits and glitches in order to get blues before yellows, which saves, 10 minutes off of the speedrun, or something like that. And so, first I'm going to now that we unlock the knapsack is the most important treasure because it allows us to take a nap, and we can get the Pikmin to carry us to areas that are not accessible because we take advantage of how waypoints work. So we can, by napping in certain areas and have Pikmin carry us, we can move to areas that can't be accessible. Now I intentionally poison a Pikmin, activate its cutscene, so I sink below the scales. And now I am out of bounds. And so I walk out of bounds to a certain area, and then I will try to warp by using the knapsack into the Blue Onion area. And I did that successfully. This is one of the harder tricks in Pikmin 2, and this is early blues. So, if this was at a marathon, probably a round of applause would happen, because a lot happened there. Since I have a moment, now I'm going to actually do yet another knapsack, where we let a Pikmin carry me, and we're going to use it to access this area. keep in mind that we had to wait until we get the knapsack to do this. So the knapsack is what allows us to sleep and have a Pikmin carry us. So that's why this treasure is important, is because it allows us to just access this area. I need a blue. I need the color to be blue. So yeah, I got a blue knapsack. I'm now up here. And so now I can get started on knocking down this wall, which is to the next cave. So we actually can basically grow blue Pikmin, which normally you can imagine would be hindered. There's the electric gate. So normally you would need yellows to get through this electric gate. We don't require such. Because I was able to nap out of bounds, whenever you take a nap, the game treats you like an object. Right? Because that's how Pikmin carry you. Because the game now sees you as an object and not a captain. When an object falls out of bounds, in order for the game to not crash or do anything else that's silly, it warps the treasure to a nearest waypoint. Which is how the game avoids, you being able to not complete the game or get all treasures if a treasure falls out of bounds. So, basically, what happens is that you run, you go out of bounds, so that you run and you fall into the void while napping. Because you nap, the game treats you like an object and pushes you to the nearest waypoint. This waypoint happens to be in the blue onion. And thus, early blues. So, I'm actually going to lure this guy. This is an orange bullward, pretty fierce. As you will see, purple Pikmin make short work of everybody. I lost a couple. Happens. I didn't get the stun damage. Bro, I didn't see, what happened there is I didn't, I threw the purples a little early. So I didn't get the maximum stun. The purples, in general, these enemies are really hard and, will tear entire squads apart casually. But in speedrun, we get a little bit more leniency. Alright, Snagger Roll 2, we're going to look for a strawberry, and we're going to skip the sushi. Oh, it's top to bottom. That's okay. So that flower in the ground is actually not a flower, it is a mean thing. So there we go. Purples get the stun, which allow, wow, and there's a burn it in the water. This is unfortunate. They're gonna eat a red. There's nothing I can really do about that. They just sort of eat the red infinitely. Because they eat it, but then the red starts drowning, which cancels the eating animation. And so it probably will be just attacking that red pretty much forever. So you saw sushi. That sushi is not worth it. We really want the strawberry. But while that's going on, and once again, in the spirit of multitasking, in the spirit of Christmas, I'll figure out which direction they're going. Okay, so they're going this way, so I have to kill enemy. I'm going to leave a captain over here, but then I'm going to go, I'm going to throw a Pikmin up here. They're gonna eat another red, which is unfortunate. But what can you do? Yeah. Reds again aren't as important now. I get to grow another white here because, of course, whites carry treasures quickly. Getting a white as fast as possible is the prudent thing to do. So even though it takes a while to get the strawberry back and that Pikmin died, we can basically. The Pikmin dying actually aren't as devastating because, I can just grow blues. Obviously, you don't want Pikmin to die, but as you'll see for the boss quick kill on the next floor, it's actually necessary for us to kill even more reds. It's, again, I know everyone wants to see a deathless run, but unfortunately, in order to make an omelet in Pikmin 2, you have to break a couple eggs. Alright, 3 is really easy. It's a snagret. You once again see the power of purples. Oh no, it's a boss! Oh no, the boss is done! What a scary boss, everyone. Granted, the boss on 5 has slightly more health. But yeah, I mean this is the power of definitely the power of purples. So when purples basically hit an enemy, they create what's called pound damage, which does just so many damage, and a lot of enemies in this game don't have proper super armor. So you can just sort of smack them with, you know, just a couple purples, and their health is already just so neutered. It makes, you know, just having purples, yeah, again, losing those 2 purples before was unfortunate, but these kind of things happen. So I'm gonna go for the marble first. There's also gonna be, oh jeez. Yep, so he fell from the sky. You might be asking, why am I... You might be asking why I'm so zoomed in, which is a good question. So enemies actually can't see Pikmin unless they're very close or if they're not on camera. So that's actually called deloading. Deloading is a really important tactic. So you might be wondering why, like, you know, even though I was right next to that cannon beetle over here, why, you know, boulders weren't flying at me the entire time. Only 1 or 2 were. And it's because the, he wasn't activated until Pikmin were within a certain radius because I kept him off camera. So in these floors, obviously, you know, there's hazards everywhere. There's like electricity. There's enemies. There's these cannon beetles which spit boulders. I mean, these sublevels are starting to get harder, right? I mean, we're going into sort of the more advanced sublevels, and so like deloading and those kind of tricks in order to lock in enemies and have enemies no longer bother us is pretty important. So my gauge is currently screwed up because there's something called an antenna beetle, which is right over there. The antenna beetle's main superpower is making sure I have no clue where any of the treasures are. Oh, that's unfortunate. So now, because the gauge was restored, I was able to use a gauge to figure out which... You know, I was able to figure out which bulwark, because several bulwarks fall from the sky, and there's no way of telling which of your gauge is screwed up. But if you use the gauge, you can tell which bulwark has the marble. And so that's what I did. Unfortunately, when I hit the anode, a purple bounced off and got murked, so... Another unfortunate purple death, but... To a speedrunner, it's all part of the grind. And we always have the opportunity to grow more, we always have the opportunity to grow more purples, so it's never a problem. Alright, 6, I'm gonna head to the exit, but it's possible there's a treasure that we can obtain, so we'll see how lucky we get. Well, I wanted to fight that enemy and see if... What? Come on, I whistled. So I'm not gonna kill this poison hazard because, well, I don't really need to. I wanted to get some... Oh, see, this is the enemy that I wanted to collect. So he's gonna drop a treasure. Which is dumb, because I can't get it, because there's water! No biggie. This means... Just keep going. But that's an optional treasure that you can get if it's not behind water. But yeah, I mean, that 6 was a little rough. But this is a... So here's the quick kill. Pretty scary Snagret. The only way to kill him is actually to bait him into eating some Pikmin and kill him while he eats. So I'm purposefully purposefully baiting him. Right. Treasure went so far. Why, dude? Jeez, that treasure went pretty far away, but this is Justice Alloy. It gives the captains even more health. So yeah, all of this Pikmin management and like, you know, that boss is another one where the quick kill was successful, so one cycle. Lost a couple Pikmin to things, but that's how it goes. Alright, so now that we have, because we entered the cave, the blue onion is now warped back to spawn, and we can now access blue Pikmin like normal. And that's good because we're gonna basically do an entire day cleanup right now. We're basically gonna get a whole bunch of treasures. Oh, this Pikmin did not want to behave. So I'm just switching to purples on the fly here. So I'm basically, so there's a treasure that's being dug up there. I'm also in this process growing more purples. Or not more purples, more blues. Because I'll need an army of blues by the end of the day. More power of purples. Want to just get purples on these. Here's another globe. And so I'm hoping I should have enough. Yeah, I have enough Pikmin that I can carry it. Alright, I'm gonna now that I have blues here, I'm actually gonna use these blues in order to make these red carries blue carries. And now we're going to do another knapsack to basically, another knapsack exploit to get up to more areas that we shouldn't be able to access. So that this is a two-part knapsack, that's knapsack 1. And that's knapsack 2. And, basically, through all of that, we can ensure that that now that we're up there and those Pikmin that knapsacked up with me are actually going to take the treasures that we're going to take the treasures that was up there and they're going to bring it down. Sorry. I had to think for a moment just because I'm also routing the treasures. So, now that all the treasures basically are moving right now, so I can now take this time finally to pluck all these nice blues that we got. We got a good and handy helping of blues. So it takes a moment to pluck, but as you can see, all the treasures are sort of coming in, so. Globe first, which is... Right, so now here they all are, so. Once this treasure is in, which unlocks the next area, this actually will be the last area we visit, so. We won't see this area next. The game wants us to see the area next, but no, because we have blues, keep in mind that we shouldn't have blues at this point, but because we do, we're actually going to go back to Valley of Repose and get some, and we're actually going to use Valley of Repose to get some more whites. We need some whites. You can never have enough whites in this game, so. So now we can take all the blues out. I have a lot of blues. which is fair. And now this nectar patch that I threw this white on generated a nice helping of nectar for us, which I appreciate. Might get even more nectar for some of these blues later, but... And of course, Olimar is left on this stump, which we can now whistle. And that actually brings the entire squad to this hole. Because the only thing that determines who enters a hole is how many Pikmin are in your party. So technically, because of these Pikmin are in my party, that's how you can quickly just bring all of these Pikmin to Glutton's Kitchen. Or not Glutton's Kitchen, Bulblack's Kingdom. Wrong BK. Another lure. This is going to go a lot more smoothly than the last lure. Yeah, now this is the power of purples that I was talking about. A little bit of a technique to it, but... Oof, alright. Well done. In the next one, there's going to be there's going to be hazards that I'm just going to try to essentially duck. So there's going to be a lot of fire hazards. Of course, we don't have red Pikmin anymore. Even if we did, we don't want red Pikmin carrying things. We want white Pikmin carrying things. So we're going to see if I can just avoid, either destroy or avoid all of these fire hazards. I'm going to try to do the latter, because avoiding something... Yeah, I can't. They're all on fire. It's fine. Sometimes Pikmin catch on fire. Gotta tell them to calm down. That Dweevil tried to pick up the treasure, so I had to tell him no, don't do that. You know, you can save Pikmin from fire pretty easily in this game, so Pikmin catching on fire isn't a huge deal for me. You know, the important thing is just getting the treasure moving, executing quickly. So, as long as mostly whites are carrying things, we actually skip the entirety of 3. 3 is very slow and not worth, so we just... Oh, misread where the hole was. We skip the entirety of 3. Four, this is where we actually grow more purples, which is good because I've lost a couple or two. Alright, there's one. Yeah. Alright. I want to get this. And then while this is getting carried back, I take this moment to up the... So now I have 5 extra purples. I can always grow even more purples if I need to in a little bit. This is another one that we actually skip because it's super bad. Makes Bulblack's Kingdom not crazy long. Because we skipped 2 of them. 6 is a mess. We need to find 2 really heavy treasures. One is inside a Bulborb, one is a buried skull, which is not at all morbid. Well, the treasure one is pretty quick. It's right here. Question is, where is the skull? There it is. The skull. Oh, falling bomb. Alright. No, I just have to clear the way now. Just make sure that none of these guys bother. Just making sure that we're actually collecting enough bug bodies along with the treasures that we're carrying. Now I just head back to the exit. This is one of those where, you know, you want to make sure that the treasure business, it's faster, of course, to get the treasures moving and then clean up on the way. But, you know, I mean, these are just the kind of decisions that you have to make. This is one of the most hilarious boss fights in the game. This final floor coming up right here. Like, most hilarious boss fight. I'm serious. So, the Emperor Bullblax was the main boss in Pikmin 1. And he makes a reprisal there. You see his eyes. We actually first want to get this gate knocked down before we do this. So, here's the fun thing about this enemy here. They forgot to give him super armor on his come-up. So, all of this pound that I'm doing right now is being tabulated, and thus he's dead. Are you? Come on. This Pikmin supposed to... Pikmin is supposed to pick me up. In the case, we do use a net. You're supposed to, in theory, come up here to get to the treasure, but we use that knapsack to just circumvent all of that. One of the Pikmin were not behaving with the fire, though, which is dumb. But it happens. And with getting that treasure, which is 250, that's a pretty hefty treasure. We are done with Bullblack's Kingdom, and with being done with Bullblack's Kingdom, we have now finally cleared Awakening Wood. We're over halfway done paying off the debt, ladies and gentlemen, and runners generally, and therefore we're almost halfway done. Pretty dang close. Halfway done, and we will not be returning to Awakening Wood. We've entered basically all 4 caves. We've gotten the treasures we needed to get, and thus we are off. That was a pretty, you know, in the beginning, like, we go through 4 days really quickly, but that day 5, pretty hefty. Now we're actually going to hit, instead of going to Perplexing Pool, we're actually going to hit the Valley of Repose late game caves. These caves are some of the hardest caves in the game, just bar none. So you're gonna start seeing some, like, next level multitasking and, like, Pikmin management coming out of these. So I'm gonna take all flowers to this Valley of Repose gate. So I'm gonna leave some behind, which is unfortunate, but you know, it's just what has to happen. I'm taking, what, 53 to the wall? That leaf is also gonna be left behind. No, 52 to the wall. Not bad. As long as it's above 50. So, then 20 and 22 are sort of okay numbers. Can't complain. And we're going to basically be taking... so while that wall is being knocked down, and as you see, that wall is in the water. So that's why we couldn't do this earlier. Like, we had to... we had to basically we had to get blues before we entered this area. Throw a couple Pikmin on that other scrap. One thing I didn't talk about in the tutorial is we didn't get an above ground treasure in Valley of Repose yet. And you might ask, well, why does that matter? And the thing is that because of how the tutorial is supposed to work, you're supposed to end the day by getting a treasure. So the first treasure you get in Valley of Repose ends the day. So that's sort of a troubling prospect, because how do we quickly get a treasure? So what we actually do is we actually move a treasure basically in two parts to be is to be really close to the ship, so that when we collect it, it basically loses no time. So the first part of that moving process happens when we enter a subterranean complex. You will notice that we do a knapsack here. We do another knapsack exploit here to once again circumvent having to go through all this energy to get to the cave. So we just quickly enter this cave with no problem. And subterranean complex, woo! Subterranean complex is the trip. Bombs everywhere. Hazards afoot. Let's see, is the treasure in here? So I actually saw the gauge move up even for just a slight little bit, and that was enough information for me to know that it's right here. Oh, bumbling snitch bugs will steal your captains. On my way to steal your captain. But what I did there actually was some pretty advanced tech, so I basically was able to position my Pikmin in such a way that when I dismissed all of the white Pikmin basically went onto the hazard, killing it instantly. It's a very easy way to deal with hazard management. In case we don't really get the tape, we just want to get the Nauvoo table, which we get right here, the Nauvoo table. And we can go. Gauge reading right there was really huge. You know, just quickly accessing where the treasure was, even though it was buried in just a very large sublevel. You know, so I'm just always running in directions. Sublevel 2 has a whole bunch of bombs, and we're just gonna see how we can do it. So here's a snitch bug. Excuse me, sir. So a dirty secret with these green dirigibugs, they create bombs. And that's problematic. But if you load a purple on them, see, so like those things are dropping bombs, which is unfortunate. Right, and these guys will just attack bombs at will if they want to. So part of my job is just to babysit and make sure that they aren't doing anything too crazy. You see, like that purple will just immobilize that dirigibug as long as I want. So purples are just, once again, just unbelievably valuable combat fighters, even if they're actually not killing the enemy. You know, just because it kept that dirigibug there, prevented it from putting bombs in my way. I didn't have to take down that other dirigibug just because I knew that the bombs... I mean, I think it killed one blue or something, but blue has now replaced red as our daily disposable. I don't really mind blue deaths. I mean, obviously too many is bad, but, you know, I'm in a pretty comfortable area. 3 is really hard. Okay, so with 3, I need to multitask correctly, so I'm actually going to split here and... what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put whites on this. I'm gonna put whites on that because I want that actually to come back pretty dang quick. And then I'm gonna zoom in so I can deload the rogue cannon beetle, because what's gonna happen is a cannon beetle is gonna pop out from the ground and I'm gonna need to kill it. without attracting the attention of the other ones. This is where zooming in is really important. So the reason why I wanted this to come in really fast with the whites is that I can now swap in whites for this treasure. Now I can switch and captains and go for the other. You can now go for the exit, having successfully fought everybody. I actually am realizing that the exit is closer to the other captain. I was zoomed in so I couldn't see super clearly. That's fine. It's a super easy fix. Just that is how you efficiently play that sublevel, right? Dividing and conquering, figuring out exactly how you want to splice every single, enemy up, basically knowing where everything is instantly. In any case, this is actually the biggest boon from doing Valley of Repose before Perplexing Pool is we get now 10 more whites, bringing our white count total up to 30, which is pretty good. I think actually a white fell off the abyss they actually fell off the edge on one of these, so maybe I only have 29 whites. Still pretty dang good. Oh. Alright. Now, we skip 5. I'm going to try to do what's called Rim Walk on 5 if I need to, which is a cool way of... I don't need to do it. I'll still try to show it here, though. It's pretty cool. I basically try to wake up immediately. Get up here. And getting up on that lip allows me to access every area really, really, really quickly. But that's really tight knapsack timing. In any case, doing that knapsack allows me to basically skip a whole bunch of walking and get to this exit faster. Because, man, SCX 5, absolute. Subterranean Complex, we usually denote SCX by runners. Subterranean Complex sublevel 5 is a mess. 6 is basically hazards galore. So this actually is going to take a lot of hustle. Alright. Alright, so now my purples are ready. This Weevil is going to try to pick up treasures. I'm not going to let it. Maybe I will let it. I mean, I don't know. Alright, so cleaned that out. So basically I was able to deal with the hazards because purples are awesome. And you know what, frankly, in this sublevel there wasn't actually a lot of poison. The poison was sort of off to the side. I was basically able to nuke the poison pretty quick. And handle all the weevils. So I got really lucky. But just quickly moving, making sure there's electricity though near the spawn. I mean, it's a super dangerous sublevel. But basically, I basically have the good Pikmin management, so I'm not dilly-dallying. Man, you see that Weevil, look at that Weevil marathon run with that. Imagine if that was a treasure, right? Would have been super bad. Luckily, I was sort of able to scare off the Weevil and stun it. Alright, this is a really, really, really big level that involves killing enemies called Gatling Groinks, which are pretty, pretty terrifying. They fire mortar shots at the enemy, so that's not fun. Did I get towerless? No, I just got really garbage. So, I'm basically going to just do this because that immobilizes that Groink. Because I don't want to have to deal with it at all, frankly. I'm throwing those 10 whites off to the side. They will come in handy later. So this is a Groink on a tower. We have to kill this guy because purple's once again, of course, coming in super clutch. Oh, come on, dude. I can't save him. Man, you weren't supposed to do that. I don't want those purple stragglers to interfere with. This is basically a volatile Drevel. It's sort of a suicide bomber, so you gotta juke it a little bit. Otherwise it gets sort of cranky. Ooh, avoided that from causing any problems. Could you imagine? Now that I've dealt with all that, I just have to head to the exit. For those, you know, with the bombers and the groinks, these can be really hard to execute. I was lucky that I was able to immobilize the groink when I did. That was super clutch. Now we can head to the exit. For a donation incentive, it's possible that I'll add the ability to quick kill the boss here because I can do that, and it's fun. But in most speedruns, we just head to the exit here. All right, that's one of the hardest caves, completely done. Now we have to move to the other hard cave. First, we need to continue moving the treasure that we started moving at the end of this. So what we do here is we just take out all the purples we did. We still have 95 Pikmin, so we didn't really lose that many Pikmin. And now that that's moving again, we can basically continue. I have some white leaves, but white leaves actually is still pretty fast, so we're not going to lose them. There's actually another really heavy treasure that we're going to get started moving on this, so I'm going to start doing that now. I throw 14 blues. 3 purples, and I take that to, oh, I only did 13 blues. It shouldn't matter too much. Those blues will wait there, and I'm actually throwing these purples up here to start carrying a treasure. All 3 purples. One. And then the blues will help assist carry that, and that will... Currently that treasure is in a really inaccessible and slow to reach spot, but while I get to this cave, I'm hoping that, this is where I also deload. Just ignore the cannon beetles. That'd be really bad. So I'm just able to ignore most of the enemies here just by keeping my camera in. I use a purple just to immediately down that flying blowhog. Again, purples, of course, are super useful, not just even in killing enemies, but for, like, general immobilization. Now we're on to Frontier Cavern. So, Frontier Cavern has a lot of buried treasures. So the first one will have 2 buried treasures. Luckily, I actually know all of the possible spawn locations, so that spawn right there is called a doodlebug. They are the absolute worst. Because they wake things up like this. I got a good stun. Right, and that's not at all stressful. You can imagine. 2 blues died. But really, it's sort of had to happen. Alright. The doodle bugs cause a lot of poison, but I was able to locate both of the burieds pretty fast. While still getting some cash money to it. In the next one, neither are buried, but we're basically gonna try to deload them and as many cannon beetles as we can. Oh, okay, so this one, yeah. So let's see. This is a good actually example of good deload. It's dangerous, but you actually can ignore. And then we can, then I just speed that up, and then if I just deload, then the cannon beetles won't bother that treasure. A little bit hectic, but of course this is sort of what you need to do in a Pikmin 2 speedrun. You can't try to manhandle. Alright, note how no one's dying. Right. Cannon beetle boulders also don't harm carried Pikmin treasures that much. I mean, it's really rare for them to kill Pikmin on treasures, so, I mean, pretty safe play. A little bit enemy heavy, but, I mean, I played it really well. It's not doing more than you have to, right? Pikmin 2 is a game about not doing more than you have to. So I feel like I played that pretty well. Alright, so here's where I'm scanning. I'm looking for, so there is one thing. I do my dismiss trick again to quickly kill that poison. Now the question is that buried in that alcove or is that a fake? It's a fake. So, yeah. So, actually the treasure is in neither of those places. It means it's somewhere over there. It's in this alcove. So I was able to use the gauge because there's a buried treasure, but this alcove, this room has a lot of fakes. So what you see there is a bull bear. It's one of the scariest enemies in Pikmin 2. Oh, thanks, game. Right, so they've killed a lot of purples. Oh, so that one actually ate a white. Oh. Wow, that killed a lot of Pikmin just because they all went for that electric hazard, which is unfortunate. Because of this, I'm actually gonna improvise and throw some more whites. If you can't improv on the fly, especially in a marathon, then, you're going to have a hard time running Pikmin. A lot of Pikmin 2 is that, expect the unexpected. And, and it's always smart to just improvise and just keep playing. But sometimes Pikmin will be silly and, will attack hazards and do other kooky stuff. And it's important to just, for example, that would not have been good, but, it's not like losing Pikmin like that would destroy a marathon run. Not even close. I mean, this game is all about just sort of playing on the fly. So in that way, I think it makes it really nice for a marathon. Just because, you can see You can see adversity being overcome. You know, like, things will just go wrong. But in Pikmin 2, you know, you're routing on the fly. You're trying to figure out what to do. You know, your Pikmin numbers will never be exactly the same. The layouts will never be exactly the same. You know, it's all about just sort of working it out. There's going to be a lot of electric hazards here, so I'm going to really want to watch myself. So snitch bugs rule on this cave. Where I actually... What I might do is I also might Bulbman some of those. Need to take some purples and go immobilize. A lot of electric hazards. So this makes this really hard to play. But like, oh man, look at all those beetles. That's pretty wild. Luckily, I was able to basically... I only lost a handful of Pikmin. I was able to grow 5 new whites, so no harm, no foul. What I might do, actually, just because I lost a couple more purples, is I might actually use... I might actually take Bulbmin, and I might grow Bulbmin on... Bulbmin are really cool Pikmin. They're like Pikmin Bulborb hybrids, but they can't leave caves. So what I might do is I might use Bulbmin to create 5 more whites. This would be like a marathon strat. And this is Rocket Fist, by the way. It's the only special treasure that doesn't occur at the end of a cave. This actually increases my punching. So now I have special punches. Doesn't really, you know, it's sort of a lackluster thing, you know. We don't really punch enemies a lot, but if I need to, pow pow. We skip 6. 6 is just a horrible sublevel. That's not worthy of my love. So, we just book it. Don't worry, that cannon beetle won't bother him to spawn, so we can skip that without penalty. Alright, now I'm trying to use the gauge to figure out if any of this thing is worth going to. So I am going to, I easily just lured all those Bulborbs away from the spawn. Because my question is, why would you fight all of that when you can just do that and profit? No brainer, IMO. And then I was able to use the gauge to figure out that the buried is over here. I'm going to whistle off some purples and swap in some more whites to just get that carry a little bit better. And you see, and that was really smart The reason why that was really smart on the fly play, I immediately recognized that there was only one treasure and all those bulborbs, and that it would benefit me to. I knew that there was an enemy here, so I'm just. This glint beetle just gives me nectar. So I can do that. And now there's still a couple more leaves, but I mean that helps a lot. And now with all of that, you see I was just able to lure all the bulborbs, and we don't fight the final boss in this cave because it's the absolute worst. 20 Pikmin, lots to lose, but and this is still fine. So now, through all of our efforts, we finally have this treasure super close. So what we can do is after this cave, we just load up on this treasure. And you'll see that after we collect it, the day will automatically end. It'll be like, nope, you're done. Sorry. Beep 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 beep. Because it thinks it thinks it's tutorial time when we collect our first Valley of Repose above ground treasure. And honestly, our Pikmin numbers are like actually fine. So a little bit of growing helped a lot. Especially using those Bulbmin, because it didn't hamper my blue numbers. So now that we got the first above ground treasure, but we need to return because there's actually a whole bunch of money to be acquired in the above ground treasures. So we're actually going to do a little bit of Valley of Repose cleanup. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take our purples. Sending some purples back to Louis just in case, but we take some purples and we just sort of put them on this battery. This is the treasure that you're supposed to collect in the tutorial, but we're collecting it now because we're awesome and we're speedrunners. So there you go. I used the C-stick to basically come up here and start them digging on that earlier than another little cheat that the game developers don't want you to know this. You know? Always fun. Anyway, so now we get that treasure moving. And then finally, the last treasure we need to get moving is another buried treasure that's right here. So now everything is sort of moving, right? So, you know, there's purples on the battery, there's whites on this, on these two buried treasures. I'm gonna basically try to get some nectar if I can. Fossilized, so these treasures above ground are very expensive, so you were almost 80% done. We will be by the end of this section. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually not even gonna have time to nectar, that's fine. What? They didn't grab on? Ugh. I'm gonna have to accidentally murk some two whites to sunset, which is unfortunate. They were supposed to grab on. Oh well. Such is life. But now we're 80% done, guys. We're on the final stretch. Keep in mind that my submitted estimate for this is probably going to be around 150, so I don't think it'd be possible for me in good faith to get sub. You know, I mean, I basically get 142s all the time, so 150 is unbelievably marathon safe. Even this is probably going to be sub 145. Alright, so now we're in the new area, right? So the good news is getting started is pretty easy. Because the cave that we want to go to is actually right out front. Citadel of Spiders. So we actually see it. It's right there, right? So super simple stuff. I zoomed in so that Wallywog didn't attack us. So spiders, we are skipping the first sub-level. I actually know exactly how much money I need in order to make sure that we complete out the game. You know, how many bugs to get, etc. We do not need Love Nugget. Love Nugget is an optional treasure you can sometimes get. It's a tomato. It's not worth very much, but sometimes in endgame you need to get it in order to make sure that you pay off the debt. More backups and such. I only just need about 20 bodies. Then I'll be good. Man, I've been getting really interesting 2s lately. Wow, that's sort of bonkers. Alright. This is an egg drop. This is nice. I actually need to make sure I get all of these. I'm gonna whistle to make sure that I get that. This was pretty good, but I'm just trying to ensure that I get all of these bugs. Because, I actually need to make sure that... At this point, it's like sort of a more late game problem of like, you really need to make sure that you, know your money. I mean, and I know my money pretty dang well, so... That's not necessarily a worry, but... It means that you have to be super on. But yeah, this is probably going to be like a 145, 146. Oh, wow. Really early gate. I'm just going to scout out this area while this is coming down. Wow, super interesting area. So this is actually good. That's going to be one bug. So I'm going to basically be now collecting those bugs. I need to understand what I'm looking at. Okay, so there is a buried treasure right there. Pretty crazy. Very weird layout. Not actually that bad, if I'm going to be honest, but very weird. But basically I should be collecting all of these bugs right here. So that basically ensures that everything is hunky-dory. So yeah, there was one buried there, but I knew from the gauge that it actually was crazy close. Definitely a very interesting layout. Because normally you actually have gates guarding the treasures, but in this case no gates were guarding the treasures and one gate was guarding the room. No, honestly, a very irregular Citadel Spiders 3. But you gotta be ready for anything, right? No exceptions. I got 20 there. So yeah, I mean, I should be good for Glutton's Kitchen. This one I just want to book to the exit. I don't have time for any shenanigans. Normally, time capsule actually would be a pretty good get here. You basically could use that and skip getting aquatic mine, which I'm going to get in a little bit. But no, I mean, most of the time, you just want to head to the exit, which is what I'm going to do. So next, there's actually 2 treasures on this final floor. The main goal, of course, will be to... There is actually a quick kill method for Beady Longlegs, which is the spider boss on this floor, hence the name Citadel Spiders. This one is very hard, but I will definitely always attempt it. There's also a buried treasure, so we just want to get them starting digging on that, right, for obvious multitasking purposes. Now here is where I go for the quick kill. Nah, I was close, but didn't quite. I want to see if I can... I was able to use that glint beetle to quickly nectar some of my whites before I left, so that was convenient. So, what he drops, this is actually interesting. So, what Beady Longlegs drops is, Beady Longlegs drops the key, which is actually a very important treasure, because it unlocks challenge mode. Congratulations, everyone. We have now unlocked challenge mode. Challenge mode speedruns are also very interesting. I think we're submitting a challenge mode co-op run with my good friend TCB. That's also a really interesting run that should be given a watch. Any case. Once again, we are off. So I just whistle these Pikmin. So now I'm going to also get Aquatic Mine and Above Ground Treasure while we're on our way to Glutton's Kitchen, which will be the cave that we finish on, everyone. So we're on the final stretch. But I have just one more Above Ground Treasure to get, which is killing this mini boss here, the Toady Bloister. This mini boss is honestly very hard. It's because he keeps moving. Stop moving, dude. Alright. So, while that treasure is moving, we use blue Pikmin so we can get it in the water. While that treasure is moving, we will be moving towards Glutton's Kitchen. And normally we'd have to slowly throw all of these Pikmin onto the scales. But we can find a way to circumvent that, and I'll show you that in a little moment. You'll notice that we're passing by yellow Pikmin. What? One sec. Sometimes, very rarely, Pikmin will die carrying the aquatic mine. Yeah, that's so weird. Why did they all die? It's because these bugs will grab it. Unfortunately. Which is, yeah, very silly. But it's been known to happen. I just, those are all leaves. We're in the final stretches. It's less important now. So yeah. It's really unfortunate that they all perished. Anyways, now that is fixed, we can go and we do a really tricky knapsack to get up onto this ledge. And we can finally enter Glutton's Kitchen, which is the last cave. So we skip one. What I was mentioning before, I had noticed that maybe all the people on the Aquatic Mine died is we don't get yellow Pikmin in this run. Which is sort of mind-blowing for some of the casual players. Yeah, just yellow Pikmin in this run are completely ignored. This one, I have to work fast to make sure bread bugs don't steal treasures, if they can. Yep, so here it is. Want to just collect some of these bugs, just to make sure. I should be super safe on the whole clearing, paying off the debt, because I know exactly how many bug bodies in each cave I'm going to. So it's just the more bug bodies I pick up now while treasures are being carried, the more efficiently I can operate on the later sublevels. This one is really in danger of a bread bug stealing a treasure. So bread bugs basically patrol and steal unattended treasures. And so the whole goal is basically just to get to these unattended treasures as fast as humanly possible. Because... So there's actually the treasure of interest that I want to... Oops. This is the last cave, so it's important that you always want to play these fast and loose. Okay, dude, you need to stop. So this blowhog here will blow all your Pikmin away, and we don't really like that. So basically what I did is I just loaded them up on purples. That should distract it for a little bit longer. And then I can just get these treasures in tow. We're 90% done, everyone. A little bit more than 90% done. So, I mean, here it comes. We're really nearing the end. All right. So there are some in this cave. It's on the next cave. It's possible that I have to use trick throws. So occasionally there is going to be a treasure that can only be accessed by yellow Pikmin. So instead of that, because we don't have yellow Pikmin, we actually ricochet a purple off of a object to go acquire it. I don't always need to do that, but I almost wish I do, just in this sample run, just so I can sort of show you. Oh yeah, I do need to do it. So this is very cool. I need to go do some other. I need to do some multitasking first, but there it is, right? So I need a purple. What I do is I ricochet. Oh, so this is the idea. Wow, that was interesting. There we go. So yeah, so those are cool, really cool trick throws. You can't really do that otherwise. I'm playing with a little bit of low... I'm playing with slightly low Pikmin numbers, but it's no biggie. So that's also really cool problem solving. But way back in what I'll call the dark ages of this, until those trick throws were found, I mean, it was really painful if you had a high treasure. Alright, I mean, it'd be a huge problem. But now, I mean, we basically have routed out all of those problems. So, you know, we've basically outskilled a lot of the major roadblocks that were there in the past. Alright. There's a lot of cannon beetles. We just need to... okay, I'm trying to figure out, where's the other room? I need to go this way. Like with a lot of other enemies, one Pikmin will do wonders. Oh, well. Alright. Alright. And now we're into the final sub-level. A lot of that stuff is just we're trying to avoid too many cannon beetle deaths, but we got one where there weren't a lot of enemies in our way, so that was really fortunate. So there's a whole bunch of bread bugs. So first what we need to do is we need to create bread bug bait. Sort of a weird thing to say out loud, but it's true. We just need to create bodies that bread bugs will pick up, because if the giant bread bug, which is the really large bread bug, picks it up, then we can use that to lure him back to the ship. So the giant bug needs to grab basically two things so we can lure him back, because he needs to be lured back around 3 times. No, sorry, 2 times, not 3 times. So there, he grabbed onto a treasure. That's fortunate. So there he goes. There's step 1. Now he's walking into nothing, because this game obviously creates very smart, well-rounded enemies. So as you see, we are nearing the end, right? It's just with Meat of Champions, we're getting very close. Yep, and this is perfect. We're actually gonna basically be within 1 Poco of the amount that we need to win. And then all the whites grab onto this treasure. The 999, and voila! The debt is paid. Oh, just a couple more seconds before we need, so basically around this time we would call time. I'd be telling people to get ready to call time. I'm gonna stop time when we actually stop time, obviously. But no, I mean, you basically were along for a ride of, you know, treasure collection and, like, optimal Pikmin play. And routing. And some death. and some excitement, and some, and lots of combat, so. And at the end of this sequence, time stops. And voila! Sample run. Pikmin 2 is a really fun game to play. It's a really fun game to commentate. I think it's a really fun game to watch, so I'm looking forward to, maybe a future of seeing this at GDQ 2020. So, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.